My name is Moses Powell. I've been studying jiu-jitsu for the last 20 years. I'm the master Furendo Visitational. And at this particular time, I'm a senior master in the art of jiu-jitsu Te and jiu-jitsu Ryu.
.radio.net presents to you some of the most deadly jiu-jitsu masters in the world. Trained in the vicious urban inner-city street combat system of Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu, this art was created by the legendary Dr. Moses Powell, the father of American contemporary jiu-jitsu and the greatest martial artist of the 20th century. This network brings together 4 radio shows 4 nights a week, starting with Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Each one teach one, with the Pia Master himself, Grandmaster Urban Muhammad, and his protege, Professor Terrence Hale. Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Modern Combat Masters, hosted by the inheritor of GM Billy Davis Jiu-Jitsu, guru of his own Filipino system, and Sanuces Master, Grandmaster Daryl Sargent, and his co-host, Sifu Reseda de Jesus. Thursday nights at 9 p.m. is Professor Tom Curry's radio talk show. A Kenpo Master and Professor of Sanuces Ryu, 20 years law enforcement, senior tactical training instructor for intelligence retired, and author of the official Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu testing and training curriculum. And Friday nights at 8 p.m. is Making the Connection, hosted by the president of DocRadio.net, Grandmaster in the art of Sanuces Ryu and Soke of Kuroshi Kaikan martial arts system, and president of the Family of Sanuces organization, Soki Haisan Khalik, and his co-host, Shihan Farouk Gibbs. All of these shows can be linked to online by typing in docradio.net or listening live at the scheduled time by dialing 646-716-6825. DocRadio.net is also proud to present DocMagazine.net, the world's largest martial art magazine dedicated to Dr. Moses Powell, Sanuces Ryu Eye-to-Eye Jiu-Jitsu, Urban Tactical Street Self-Defense, and Streetology. Please join our Facebook group by typing in docradio.net and follow us on Twitter by typing docradio.net. Thank you for your support, and in the words of Doc, eye to eye, heart to heart, to the wall and back, us.
Love Talk Radio.
How we doing?
We're doing good.
Eye to Eye Radio. Good. Welcome to Eye to Eye Radio on the Mat series, sponsored by www.sinjokai.com and www.sinjomartialarts.com, your premier Sanuces Ryu Jiu-Jitsu Academy. Tonight we have 2 special guests, Chief Professor Shim Yahuda Shim and Professor Rahman, Yusuf Rahman, that I will be interviewing along with my co-host and partner in crime, the architect for Khan Shabazz. How we doing, Mr. Shabazz?
I'm doing good, Sensei. And yourself?
Very good. I'm extremely happy with what's going on here. The interview today, and I believe we're ready to roll here. We're just waiting for guests to...
I think Professor Rahman or Chief Professor Shim is already logged in.
Okay, good. Let's see. Professor Rahman, Mr. Shim, are we there? All right, here we go. Here, I see it right now. Who do we have here? Professor Rahman?
Yes, I'm right.
Wa alaikum salam. How you doing, sir? Welcome to Eye to Eye Radio.
I'm the man
on the
yourself?
Mat series. No, we got Furkan Shabazz, the architect here, and I believe we're waiting on Chief Professor Shim if he hasn't already gotten online here.
Well, I gave him the number. I talked to him about maybe half an hour ago.
Okay, well, no problem. All right. Well, listen, Architect Shabazz, since we're waiting on Chief Professor, we'll go ahead and start with Professor Rahman. How about that?
Okay, all right. Let me, assalamu alaikum, Professor. How you doing? Okay, I'm just going to get right into the 5 questions. All right. I remember when you talked, we had a lot of talks. In one of our talks, you talked about Dr. Moses Powell, for example, seeing like a cat cross the mat, or he would, and then out of that cat running across the mat, he would see a technique in that movement. or the manador that came from seeing the bullfight. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, Dr. Powell was an innovator, and he used to see things or he used to be around things, and when it went in the head and came out the other way, it came out different. So as far as the cat, would say we sit there in the dojo doing nothing, and the cat's running around. The cat runs across the mat. He says, okay, everybody get dressed. To get dressed? Yeah, everybody get dressed. He said, when the cat ran across the mat, I came up with something. Let me show you what I got. Or the matador, if you see a bullfighter, everybody's seen a bullfighter with the little funny hat.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Okay. If you see the movement of the bullfighter and you look at the block that he put together, you see it emulates the bullfighter. The bullfighter takes that little cape and he shakes it in front of the bull, and the bull says, and the position that his hands and stuff are, when he shakes the thing in front of him, if you see Matador, you'll see the same movement in the block. And then the bullfighter steps up like he's in intention, and the bull goes by him. And if you take the movement, you'll see in the Matador, you see the movement of the bullfighter. He just was an innovative type of person where he would see something, and when it come out the brain, it become out entirely different.
Yeah, the reason why that always intrigued me, because it made me think of like a lot of those kung fu, like the tiger crane or the snake, and when you read on the history of those kung fu systems, it always talked about them looking at animals in nature and extracting those movements. So when you said that, I immediately began to think about, it just had a parallel going back to a lot of those ancient Chinese systems. The next question I had is, what is the difference between self-defense complete and Sanuces Ryu? And also, what was the difference between his Sanuces Ryu when he returned back from Florida around 1991?
Okay, self-defense complete is what is basically what we call universal. In other words, it's stuff that everybody do. Inside leg sweep, outside leg sweep. Hip throw. Reverse hip throw, that kind of stuff. Then he added like the core moves, into the system. Where if you see Sanuces Ryu, is less throwing, is less sweeping, is more 1-2 to the point, 1-2 moves, and what we call crumble, and you're on the ground. Not a lot of moves and not a lot of things. It's just right to the point. So as the system evolved, it evolved in more preciseness.
All right. My next question is some of the more popular Northeast styles that came out of New York. In your opinion, do they resemble more self-defense complete, or do they resemble Sanuces Ryu, the last evolution of it?
Well, Sanuces Ryu is basically it's a system, that you don't see nowhere else. The thing he come up with is this. Sometimes it's mind-boggling. It's like, how you come up with that? And most systems they mostly basically the same. Give or take 1 or 2 core moves, but they're basically the same. Blocks, rods, sweep. Couple. If you're talking about jiu-jitsu, a couple of locks. A couple of stands, but like I say, the innovation of Sanuces Ryu, it's rare.
If I can add something to that point, what year, around what time? Not the year exactly, but around what period of time did Sanuces, the self-defense complete, actually evolve into Sanuces?
Excuse me.
What year? What year did Sanuces self-defense complete? Self-defense complete evolved into what was known at least early in the early 80s and early 70s as Sanuces Ryu.
Okay, you're at the 60s. From the time he's with Professor V in the 50s and the 60s into the early 70s was basically self-defense complete. But as he got towards the 70s, he started to add different core moves into that became Sanuces Ryu. But snooker rule as a system came into existence in 1973.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Professor, I know you've been in snooker since 1969, so you're a big you've been in a long time. And I have a question. When you trained, when Dr. Moses Powell had his school downtown Brooklyn on 55 Atlantic Avenue back in the late 60s and 70s. 554 Atlantic Avenue back in the 60s and 70s. Who were some of the great fighters that came out of that dojo?
Oh, well, he had a lot of great black belts then. Little John Davis, Noah Arrington, Latif Sadiq, Ibrahim, it was Jeffrey then. You had Ronnie Brown. You had Cecil. You had Pedrito Valet. You had a lot of what you consider great martial artists that came out of snooker.
And my last question to you is, what can I do as a lover of Sanuces Rule to help bring all the great warriors from old and new together as one Sanuces Rule family? What can be done to bridge that gap, in your opinion?
Well, other people have tried to bridge the gap,
Yes,
and one of the major problems is those who come out self-defense complete, who come out the foundation. They disappointed. They the people that come later on. It's like they're not really doing Sanuces Rule. They're not really dedicated to Sanuces Rule, and they to themselves. They to themselves. You got people like Hal Oglesby, that's part of the United Snooker Federation, the new federation, and they what we had to go through to get what we got, man. And these new breeds, it's a disappointment. So they usually stay to themselves, and then the new breed, you got a lot of people that they got their own way of doing things. They got their own way that they want out of snooker or what they want from it. And so it's really hard to bring together because if you're a grandmaster and he's a grandmaster, he said, well, I ain't got to listen to you. You ain't Moses Powell. He said, well, you ain't Moses Powell, so I got to listen to you. I do what I want to do.
Absolutely.
Professor, did Chief Professor Shem make it on the line yet?
No, I don't see him on my own. We're still waiting to get in contact with Chief Professor Shem. But I'm going to go ahead and I have some questions prepared for the Chief Professor. But since you and Chief Professor, as I believe Chief Professor calls you his twin, and you call him your twin, I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you're going to be generalized. And hopefully if Chief Professor does join us, he can pick up on it. All right? So we know you started in snooker around 1969. And tell me, how was the training? Go ahead, finish.
Oh, yeah. And I was going to New York City Community College in 69, and then the summer of 69, I came to 554 Atlantic Avenue.
And how was 554 Atlantic Avenue as far as we knew we had some high caliber jiu-jitsu and jiu-jitsu-ka and, just some real stone-cold fighters coming out of that dojo. But at 554, who were some of your elders and some of your classmates or colleagues that you looked up to or that you learned from, as well as, outside of Dr. Moses Powell? Who did you look up to as far as a dojo brother or a warrior that you can recall?
Okay, well, I was one of the pitifulest martial artists in the world. So Doc used to. I'm just telling the truth. White folks didn't want to work with me. So he would take some of his black belts. He would tell them, well, go over there and work with him. And they get frustrated. I come back to him. He said, okay, all right, but go over there and work with him. People like Cecil, like Pedrito Valet, like Chuck. These are people that he had working with me when I was, white belt, yellow belt, green belt.
Yes, sir. So, and just those few names, those are some heavy hitters that you're mentioning there. Listen, how does, in your opinion, and I know because this may not be a good question for you because you have never studied any other martial arts except Sanuces, correct?
No, you're right, correct.
Yes, sir. But from seeing, because you are a martial artist and you've seen other martial arts, in your own words, how would you describe Sanuces as being different from other styles of not only jiu-jitsu, but from Aikido and Karate and other martial arts as systems? How does the Sanuces system differentiate itself, in your opinion, from the other style? What is it about Sanuces that makes it completely different?
Sanuces rule was founded by a person coming out the street of Harlem.
Oh, yes, sir.
So his whole environment was the gang fighting in the streets of Harlem, where a lot of other systems are basically traditional. You know, it came from overseas somewhere, and they created a certain structure, and it has kept that structure.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, absolutely.
Even though Sanuces Group does have structure, but it also has a uniqueness to it where, you know, he does stuff in Sanuces that you don't see nowhere else.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can second that, Professor. I've seen Dr. Moses Powell do things that no one else has done, and I can even recall a videotape when Doc said, you know, watch when the people come after me, watch how many can really do what I do after I'm done, you know, showing the technique. And it was absolutely right. He had an interview in California where he said, well, yes, if you look at the masters, they do the same thing over and over and over again, and when I do, you see that they can't do what I do. He says, yes, I'm the river that never runs dry. The more you come to me, I always have something else to give you. So, you know, he was just a unique. Yes, you know, in life, you have human beings that you're just unique. They're unique people, and very rare you have those type of people. You know, I equate him with, like, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan came on the basketball scene, and he did stuff nobody else did. Nobody else could do. Yes, sir.
You know, and it's going to take a while, then maybe 50, 100 years later, there'll be somebody else that comes out that's just unique. Like, you know, and that's Dr. Powell. He's just a unique individual.
Professor Rahman, did you get a chance to meet Professor Florindo Visitation, Mr. Professor V?
Oh, absolutely. I just see him every day.
Yes, sir. And how was the relationship? How would you describe the relationship between Grand Professor V and Dr. Moses Powell?
The same relation is me to Dr. Powell.
Yes, sir.
That's all he talked about. My teacher, Professor V. My teacher, Professor V. My teacher, Professor V. My teacher, Professor V. The love and the appreciation is as me to him.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And how would you describe Mr. V's reaction towards him? Because, you know, we know Mr. V, this is Mr. V's best student ever, and it's been reported by, you know, numerous people that Mr. V has said Moses was on the level that even I never reached. Dr. Powell was on the level that he never reached.
Because he, you know, Mr. V recognized that, you know, for traditional martial arts, you know, he's a well-established martial artist. But as far as innovation, you know, it got to the point where Doc, you know, would do things that he never could realize becoming good with. He just had that gift. Some human beings got that gift. God gives them that gift that, you know, you run around your mouth open like, oh my gosh, I know he never did that. He didn't do that to you. And he was unique because he was big, but he was quick. He was 2-something, but he moved like he was 145, and that's a unique combination. You couldn't out muscle him because he was big, and you couldn't get around him because he was quick. So,
can you name one technique that you remember that was your favorite technique that you saw Doc did, that you saw Doc do, and you just, you know, it just floored you? There's numerous techniques for me, but just anything in particular you remember Doc that you loved to demonstrate on people.
Listen, in the beginning, my mouth was always open.
Yes, sir. At age, it's still open. Sometimes I look at Doc now, my mouth
even now, I look at Doc. I look at a technique I may have seen 75 times, and I'm still amazed by the technique as I go.
Absolutely. And keeping in that same direction with that previous question, what is it? And of course, we're not in the name calling and things like that. But what is it about the systems that come from Sanuces that you think that differs, and without naming systems or people in systems, that what is it that people took, I don't want to say improved upon, that they needed to leave Sanuces and do something else? Because with me, everything I need, for self-defense, I find in Sanuces, and I can't improve on Sanuces, but I can improve on myself. So what is it that you think the people that have Sanuces, because Sanuces is the mother art of a lot of other arts, as you know, and like I say, without being specific or without mentioning names or systems, what is it those other systems? Or what is it in Sanuces that those other systems were missing that they needed to leave Sanuces and go their own way and call it something else? Because what Doc said, his own word was...
It's not so much Sanuces. It's not so much Sanuces. It's that as people get ranked, as they get up in the black belt level and get ranked, they feel that, they're at the point now where they can go on their own. In fact, there's a tape where Sifu Mutaka Bear said that a lot of people made mistakes that when they, instead of staying around Doc, when they got up in rank, they made the mistake of thinking that they had it already, or they had enough already that they could go on their own.
Yes, sir.
So, a lot of people feel, I'm whatever, I'm 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 degree black belt, I have enough. I can go on my own. I can branch out without understanding that how can you branch out when you don't really understand what you already have already? It's hard enough trying to get what you already have. How are you going to branch out to something else?
Absolutely. And I got another question here for you, and I'm going to let my man Shabazz, I'm sure if he has a few more questions, the architect. What's the current state of Sanuces? And you did touch on it earlier in our interview, but the current state of Sanuces as you see it right now, and on August 9th, 2011, the 11:20 p.m., what is the current state of Sanuces Rue, in your opinion?
Well, it's today I can see it's fragmented.
Yes, sir.
Like I told Furkan before, when in the 70s, when Sanuces Rue did something, nobody wanted to come behind Sanuces Rue. Once they did something, everybody just wanted to sit down. And now, it's like you say Sanuces Rue, and they say, yeah, and what? So fragmented now that it doesn't really have to respect that it has.
So I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you saying that you didn't? I understand what you're saying. Are you getting close? Maybe Sanuces has lost some of its respect that it had in the early days when, like you said, no one came behind Sanuces Rue.
Right.
Yeah, do you feel it's lost a little bit of its not so much respect or swagger? That swagger that Doc put out, that that from the 60s, 70s, 80s.
Because Doc, people got to the point where they felt, okay, I got what I want for Sanuces, and I'm going my own way. And by doing that, then it really weakens Sanuces because Sanuces is so vast. In fact, Doc said it's as a big banquet table, and don't eat until you're satisfied that you're full. So people took that as, well, okay, I'm satisfied, I'm gone. But there's so much more to the system. This is so vast. There's so much more to the system that, you miss big pieces.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Yeah, Professor.
Yes, sir.
I have a question. At Senjukai, when we're training with our sensei, we do, 90% of what we're doing every day is we're just doing straight, a lot of jiu-jitsu. A lot of jiu-jitsu. That's all we do, basically. I mean, we have the strikes, we have aspects of the karate conditioning, but for the most part, it's a lot of jiu-jitsu. Now, when I look at a lot of Doc's tapes, Jiu-Jitsu Part 1, Jiu-Jitsu Part 2, a lot of the clips on his on the YouTube, I mean, all I see Doc doing is jiu-jitsu. And if he is doing strikes, it's short movement, this kind of thing. Now, my confusion is that, but when I look at other people doing Sanuces, and they're calling it Sanuces, like on YouTube, for example, I see a lot of karate. Now, can you explain to me why is that? And before you do, you know, I have a very deductive mind. So my thing is, when it was Self-Defense Complete, did Self-Defense Complete have more karate than it did before it became Sanuces? And can you just basically elaborate on that? Yes, absolutely. Well, you got to understand one thing, that if you take the core moves of Sanuces, you firstly have to have the core moves of martial arts. The inside block, the inside block. The outside block, the outside block. A rising block is a rising block. A down block is a down block. So if you don't have the core, what I call universal core moves, then you can't get to the rest of that stuff. Because I take Matador, okay, you got Matador rising block, which is like a double rising block. You got a rolling rising block, which is a rising block rolling up the arm. So if you know what a rising block is, then you can't do rolling rising block.
Yes, sir.
But
if you don't learn the basic move, jiu-jitsu move they else do, then you can't get to the other stuff, because the other stuff is based upon what was there before. So if I stop and say 73, 75, whatever, then I have more of the basic jiu-jitsu core moves than I have a Sanuces rule.
Yes, sir.
Because the people in New York City, when he left in the 70s and came back and forth in the 80s, but in the late 80s came back for good, if he didn't come back, then we wouldn't have what we have now.
Oh, yes, sir.
We would have basically Self-Defense Complete. With a couple moves and add into it.
So basically,
Professor, we're getting close to our 5-minute mark here in the program, and and just to keep on that same thing, forgive me, Shabazz, just keep on that same area here. Let me ask you this question here, and like I said, we are getting close to our 5-minute notice here. In Sanuces rule, how much of it, if you can give it a percentage, is based on the principles? You know, like a system. Some systems are based on principles like Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do, and how much of it is based on structured movement? Going back to what you said earlier about the core movements, how much of Sanuces is based on principles and structured movement?
The system is based upon structure. All systems have that certain amount of structure that was established over the years. But what separates Sanuces rule from other systems is the innovation. You know, he takes core moves, and what he do with it is just like unbelievable. It's like mind-blowing. How can you look at this move and you get that from it? But all martial arts systems are based upon certain core moves.
Yes, sir.
Okay, how different it is. It's certain basic structure that's in all martial arts.
So let me, Professor, when Doc came back to New York in the 90s, right, with his mind, when Sanuces rule evolved to that high level, the way he wanted it to be, was Sanuces rule intended to be a karate system or a jiu-jitsu system?
Well, Sanuces rule was always a jiu-jitsu system, because that was, he chose to do. But any qualified jiu-jitsu person start out in karate. Because the basic framework of martial arts is in, karate, rising block, inside block, outside block, hip throw, reverse hip throw, that kind of stuff. So in the beginning, they do everything they must do. It's just as you evolve, as you become better, then it branches out to other stuff. But you can't get there without the basics.
Yes, sir. We're interviewing, once again, this is Sinjo Kyle Eye to Eye Radio on the Mat series. We're interviewing here with one of the I don't want to call them old timers respectfully, but he is an old timer as far as his jiu-jitsu and one of the early pioneers of snooker's jiu-jitsu, Professor Yusuf Rahman, based out of Brooklyn, New York, right, sir?
That's correct.
Are you in Brooklyn, New York? Okay, good.
Yes, I am.
Professor Rahman is actually the technical advisor of the Sinjokai Jiu-Jitsu / Warrior Within branch of Sanuces Jiu-Jitsu, and a very, very, very valuable asset. Professor, in the last 2 minutes we got here, and we're going to wrap it up here shortly, anything you wanted to tell the people out there that are listening, remember we're a worldwide broadcast, about Dr. Moses Powell or about Sanuces Root, or any last words that you would want to leave people with as far as their training or the system of Sanuces Root?
The word I have is I would love for the people at the master level, professor and above, to come together and appreciate the 50 years of sacrifice that he made creating Sanuces Root. Because it'd be a shame for Sanuces Root as a system to die because those who got it directly from him no longer want to do it, or they want to do that in something else.
Absolutely. Okay, well, Shabazz, we're going to wrap this thing up. We got about just about a minute. Anything you wanted to add?
I just want to say, Professor Rahman, it's an honor to talk to you, man. You're a true disciple, man. You're a true Sanuces Root warrior, and and if anyone ever, you're like Doc said, his well never runs dry. I mean, your well never runs dry either on your wisdom and your brutal honesty. And I want to thank you for giving us this interview.
Yeah, and I want to second that, Professor. Thank you once again for doing this interview with Eye to Eye Radio on the Mat series. You can get more information on Sanuces Root Jiu-Jitsu based here in Atlanta, Georgia, by visiting www.senjo, SENJOKAI, senjokai.com, or by visiting us at senjomartialarts.com, which is your premier Sanuces Root Jiu-Jitsu dojo, especially based out of here in Atlanta. Once again, I want to thank the architect, and once again, I want to thank Professor Rahman. Hopefully, Professor Rahman, Chief Professor Shim, can join us another time. Hopefully, that's going to happen. But once again, eye to eye,
heart to heart.
And thank you again, Professor Rahman.